Look at this. New backdrop, new set, new network, which means new hairdo and even the loss of the beard. You know, it just makes me feel like every single night. So now that Buffy was on a new network, the tone of the final 2 seasons are very different than the first 5. Basically, Joss was given a lot more freedom to do the stories and develop the characters in a way that he wanted, and he didn't hold back. Some of this was really good and some of it wasn't, so let's get into it. To start, let's talk about the tone of this new series and it being darker than the first 5, and the main reason behind it is that Buffy has become depressed. Now I'll go into more specifics shortly, but it's all super spoilers, but this is the driving force of the character for the last 2 seasons. Depression and the effects that it has on you and the people around you. This is still coupled with lighthearted fun and great writing, but you can't escape what's going on in the background and in the foreground. Many people feel as though Season 6 has the weakest overall storyline, and that is mainly due to the big bad in my opinion. As I mentioned in part 1 of this review, each season has an overall story and bad guy that the heroes have to come together in order to defeat. The big bad. Season 7 has the first evil, which is an interesting concept and explores the evil of the world and how the Slayers were born, and a lot of the backstory to the Buffy verse. There are some great things and problems with this idea, but I'll talk about them shortly, as I want to ask the question of who is the big bad of Season 6? If you have seen this show, you might answer with the trio. This is comprised of 2 recurring characters from past seasons with Jonathan and Warren, and then 1 brand new character with Andrew. Each one of them has their own strength as well, with Warren being a tech person, Jonathan being a magic person, and Andrew being about summoning demons. When they put all their skills together, they become the trio. They aren't inherently bad per se, they are doing some bad guy things, but honestly they were kind of treated like shit throughout the entire show run, and so they just want to get one up in the world, and they're using some bad ways to do it. They aren't doing evil things per se, they're just trying to get better at life and, you know, some money and some power and all that kinds of stuff. I'll go into more detail about them extremely shortly, but I have to let you know that the rest of this review is going to be extreme spoilers, not only for Season 6 and 7, but for some previous seasons as well, as that is the only way that I can adequately talk about this show. So definitely skip ahead to the time that I have here. It's going to be most of the video gone, but if you do want to avoid these spoilers, I highly recommending just skipping ahead. The trio are the bad guys, but like I said, they aren't evil. That is, except for Warren, the tech expert of the group. He truly is a monster. He is a misogynist and an evil man that is capable of doing far worse than the other 2. He becomes unhinged and eventually kills one of the main characters, Tara, the girlfriend of Willow, which triggers the last part of the season with Dark Willow. This is far different to the other seasons, where the main antagonists are in fact human instead of demons, but they prove to be just as monstrous and show a darker side of humanity, even causing one of the characters that used to be very innocent to turn into a monster. Even though the trio are the main antagonists of the season, I don't think they are the big bad. I think this is reserved for something a little bit more abstract. Life. The feeling of loss, the feeling of human emotion, the feelings of depression are the true big bad of this season. In the end of Season 5, the main plot comes to a boil when Buffy has to sacrifice Dawn to a portal in order to close it and stop, hell on Earth. But she figures out another way to close it, using herself. Because she shares the same blood with Dawn, being sisters, she figures that she could be a substitute for the key, and she proves to be right. But in doing so, she dies. Part of the reason why this happened is because Joss wasn't sure if he was going to be picked up for a 6th season, so he killed off the main character, made it end right there. But then of course he was picked up for a 6th season, so he had to do some backpedaling, and boy, the story that we got for Season 6 is way darker. At the start of Season 6, the main characters bring Buffy back to life, which should be a good thing and should be celebrated, but she comes back a little bit wrong. The big reveal is that Buffy was in heaven in the time that she was dead, happy and in a place of safety. It was her selfish friends that couldn't live without her and brought her back. Can you imagine being in heaven, then being pulled back to earth with its demons, horrors, and hardships? It would change you, it would destroy you, and Buffy can't deal with this. Her arc in the remaining seasons is a very personal one, and it is hard to watch. Not because it's not good, but because you can sympathize with her and the poor choices that she makes, because she is in a place of hurt. It is annoying, and it really does demonstrate what this state of mind can do to you. She feels numb, disconnected from the people around her, and she is turning to things that you know aren't right in order to try and feel something. She should be able to feel the fire, but it freezes her. But that's where the final main relationship for Buffy comes in. It's with her and Spike. Now, I mentioned a little bit about Spike and his overall redemption and how he starts off as a bad guy, became a fan favorite, then they neutered him so he could do some good guy stuff but still be a dick. And in season 6, it's the culmination of sort of all of that. He has done quite a few romantic things for Buffy in the past, and he can sympathize with her because he is someone without a soul, and she feels numb, like she doesn't have a soul. He just wants her to be alive, and he is so thankful that she is, but he's still obsessed with her. Because of this, they form a bond, and she shares secrets with him, and she talks to him because she can't deal with her friends, because she doesn't want them to know that she was happy and now she is not. It is really hard for her to talk to people, but she does confer in Spike. This is the catalyst for their relationship, and it starts off as a friendship-y sort of thing, and then it moves to friends with benefits, and then it becomes an abusive, toxic relationship. Another one in this show. In this relationship, Buffy treats Spike like shit. She is abusive, she hits him, she calls him names, and she calls him worthless on so many accounts. She treats him really badly, but he takes it because he gets to spend time with her and he's getting sex. But Spike also sees more into the relationship than Buffy does, and he eventually takes it way too far. This is really hard to say, but Spike tries to rape Buffy. Season 6 is just fucking dark, man. This is probably the darkest point of the show as well, and it changes Buffy and Spike. For once in his life, Spike is ashamed of what he did and finally wants to be a man that could be with Buffy. And for Buffy, of course it scars her and pushes her towards others, but it's too late. The damage to herself and to her friendships is already done. But this isn't the only damaged relationship of the season. Willow starts using magic on Tara in order to keep their relationship happy and stable, a total violation of her free will. Then, due to Warren, Willow loses Tara, which causes her to go insane and try and destroy the world, and the only person that can stop her is Xander, her best friend, and it's with a hug no less, showing that he still loves her as a friend and is the most significant thing Xander probably does in the entire show run. But it does come after the worst thing that he has ever done. Earlier in the show run, Xander and Anya start dating, and it is a little bit dysfunctional, but it's in a healthier way than Xander and Cordelia ever was, because they do respect each other and they do come from drastically different backgrounds, so you can understand a little bit of the confusion, but you can always see the love between them. But Joss Whedon just hates relationships, so of course he's going to meddle with this one. The culmination of any good boyfriend-girlfriend relationship is, of course, a wedding. And at the wedding, Xander gets approached by a demon, which shows him his future, but plays on all of the deepest, darkest fears that Xander has. His fear of resentment, and his cowardice, and the fact that he thinks he's going to end up like his broken family. All of those fears get played out in the future, and when he comes back to the present, he knows what happened. He knows that it was a demon playing with his mind, but he still leaves Anya at the altar. Now, Xander still loves Anya, which is evident further in the show, but he just can't get married, and this breakup just destroys him and Anya. And Anya, in fact, becomes a demon again in order to compensate for this, so she becomes evil. And it's something that I really, really hated. I hated that Xander gave into his cowardice, that he doesn't think himself as a good person, that he would go so far out of his way to break a relationship that he was truly happy in just because he was afraid. This cowardice was around his character for, all 6 seasons, but I thought that it would be a happier ending. It was a joyous thing, or that they would get back together at some point in the future, but they do not. It is extremely annoying because I really liked this relationship. I liked these characters together, but Joss just ruins it. Damn you, Joss. Why are you so rude? So the main character development for Xander after this breakup is the fact that he does become a little bit more mature. He does become a little bit more focused and a bit more of a man. He takes some of his, insecurities and stuff, and he actually does start working on them internally. This is also evident because he and Anya do become friends again. He still does love her. He just did not want to get married to her at the time of the wedding, and she eventually does forgive him, and they sort of start seeing each other again. And I honestly think this would probably have continued on if other things didn't happen to the show. But I honestly think that they probably would have gotten together, and that their relationship would have been more mature, and that Xander would have talked about these feelings and all that kinds of stuff, instead of just being a high school fling that they were just, not really being too serious about. I think it could have gone more serious and better if it had continued. But alas, it didn't, so we'll never know. And it does annoy me because I wish that they did end up together, but they don't. Super annoying. Now, Season 6 might be a little bit divisive amongst fans due to the darker stories, strange character choices, and the big bad being life, but I honestly think that this makes for some compelling stories and characters. I hate Joss Whedon, but I respect him all the same for what he has done. But it isn't all doom and gloom here. There is also one of the fan favorite episodes of this season called Once More with Feeling. It is arguably one of the greatest episodes of the show run. It not only furthers the plot in significant ways, but it also plants many seeds into the show about what's going to happen further on in the season. With Willow and Tara's song You Put a Spell on Me showing that Willow is doing some bad magic on Tara, Xander and Anya's song singing about the insecurities that they have about themselves and each other, and Buffy singing about being alone. My favorite song is, of course, Walk Through the Fire, which has everyone singing and 2 lines that are so well sung because they sum up this entire season. The first line is Buffy singing, "One by one they turn from me. I guess my friends can't face the cold," which continues dealing with Buffy and her depression, but over the top of it has Tara singing, "What can't we face if we're together?" It's a beautiful part of the song, really showing that all of her friends are there for her, fighting together, but due to the depression, it's hard to see this. Buffy feels alone, and she isn't wrong about that, but she isn't right either. I could pick apart this whole song and this entire episode in general, but there is no need because it's so very powerful and I have other things to talk about. Now, I've talked a lot about Season 6, and that's because I personally feel like Season 6 is stronger than Season 7, mostly because of all the darker tones and the more adult themes that they talk about. Season 7 is not bad, but I just don't feel like it's as strong. One of the best and worst things about Season 7 is the fact that the first evil doesn't have a physical form, so we never actually see it by itself. But it does have an avatar, and it manifests itself as a previously dead character on the show. That gave Joss an opportunity to bring back all of these dead characters and all of these actors and actresses onto the show to do something fun. Even if it's just a single scene or if it's a couple of episodes, it is so fun to see these guys come back. So the first evil turns into all of the big bads at one point. Glory, Adam, Caleb, the Master, everybody, and it's so fun. I also like that in order to seduce and to try and change people's minds and get them to do what it wants, it comes and talks to them as a dead person that they know and love. So like when it's talking to Andrew, it comes in the form of Warren, and Warren tries to tell Andrew what to do and all that kinds of stuff, and for the most part it kind of works, and you can see like it's sort of based on like the idea of the devil and the first evil, but I think it's just really well done, and I really like that idea that all these characters could come back. One little thing that I don't like about it, though, is the fact that the first evil doesn't itself have its own personality. So I feel like the actual villain itself is a little bit weaker, but the execution of the villain is probably one of the best of the entire series, just because it could be everybody. The other thing about Season 6 and 7 is that Dawn is nowhere near as annoying as she was in Season 5. Now, she does have some annoying parts in the show still, but I think Joss realized that most people didn't like her, so he toned her back quite a lot. There is one scene, though, when they had to get Buffy out of the house and feel isolated, so they used Dawn to do so, and by God, she treats Buffy like a bitch. Oh my God, I hate you, Dawn. Buffy has raised you and taken care of you and done all that stuff, and you treat her like that. Fuck you, Dawn. But aside from that, she's all right. When I was watching Season 7 of Buffy, it sort of felt like that Joss was running out of ideas. I'm sure he could have kept continuing if he really wanted to, but there are fewer monsters of the week that are as interesting. The story delves more into the past of Buffy's world and the first evil and the Slayers and all that kinds of stuff, and the way that he was growing the story after this with the whole new Slayers and all that kinds of stuff. It felt like this is a good spot to end. Like, Joss is like, I've got a couple more ideas, but I don't need to use them, so instead I'll just make this one last season. And I think that's probably better, because instead of, continuing the show and making it shit and stale like so many other shows that run for too long, it does end on a fairly high note. It's not a bad show by the time of its show run end, and I think that's good. I think that's very mature for a show, and I think that's very daring just to stop. I don't know if it was a network decision, or if it was a Joss decision, or if it was a mutual one, but regardless, the fact that they did not continue is a good one. But one thing that is very interesting in Season 7 is Spike. He goes soul-searching, literally, and comes back with one. He is the only other vampire in the entire show to have a soul, but he is very different than Angel's because his one is not a curse. With Angel, he is a monster as a vampire, and he's very broody when he has a soul, as he regrets all the lives that he has taken and all the evil that he has done. When we first see Spike in Season 7, he is a broken man. Because of getting that soul takes so much out of him, and then having to live with all of the regrets and the evil that he has done, it just absolutely breaks him. But he doesn't stay that way for too long. He eventually does get over this and becomes back to his normal self. And I should point out that he becomes his normal self. He's still a dick. This is so different from what Angel goes through, and it's pretty funny because he is just a dickhead like throughout the entire show run, and he doesn't change when he does get a soul. This goes to show that a soul does not make you good or evil, it only makes you able to deal with and feel all of the stuff that you have done. It doesn't have to change your personality, and, Spike is good evidence of that. Spike is treated badly in the last season, which is understandable, but he does win over Buffy eventually, though their relationship is very different from the last season. But I still don't like that they started that up again because of what Spike did. At the end of Season 3, all of the main characters graduate from Sunnydale High, and as such, the team making this didn't need the sets and all of the props that they were using in those shots anymore. So Joss had this great idea of destroy the school in order to do the season finale. It's big, it's grand, and it's fun. So of course in the show finale, Joss had to try and top that, and he does so by destroying all of Sunnydale. It's a great last few episodes, and not everybody makes it out alive either, which is really disheartening. The most tragic one to me was Anya. She comes back as a good guy eventually, and she isn't really treated well by her friends because they were never really her friends to begin with. When a relationship breaks up, you have to pick a side, and they chose Xander. So she has her part in the final battle, and she ends up sacrificing herself in order to save another character. Not even a main character, just a crappy side character. And the worst part is that no one sees this, no one knows about it, no one even cares until the very end. She isn't brought up again in the rest of this show. It is so tragic. The fact that a main character just gets a kind of blazed off death, it's so sad. And it's one that really hits me because it's like, I really liked her, and the fact that she doesn't even get this grand big death and everybody mourns her, or she doesn't get to live, just makes me sad. The other major death, of course, is that of Spike. Because he has a soul, he fits some kind of prophecy in order to use this medallion, MacGuffin, blah blah blah, who cares, in order to close the Hellmouth, and he does so. This is his redemption. This is him coming to terms with all of the evil that he's done, all of the lives that he has taken, and most importantly, the hardships and the hurt that he has done to Buffy. He does this not even really for himself, but he does it for her as an act of a true love. He is such a dick, but he does one good thing, one amazingly good thing in the show, and of course it just so happens to save everybody because it closes the Hellmouth and destroys all the demons. This makes me like the character of Spike, even though I could never truly forgive him for what he did in Season 6. The other big thing that happens in Season 7 is that Buffy decides to start training the new potential Slayers, and she makes them into a good friendship as well, because she realizes that friendship is a key thing in this world, and she doesn't want them to be, you know, turn into Slayers without any kind of direction like she was, but she eventually got. Now, this comes to a head in the final episodes as there is a special spell that awakens all Slayers around the world. Everyone that once had the potential to be a Slayer now has that power. And that is fantastic empowerment of women, and it shows that, you know, that's great. I love the empowerment side of that. That's really, really cool. But there's some real dire consequences to this that this show doesn't address. Now that all of these women have incredible power, not all of them are going to be good. Not all of them are going to be, you know, trying to fight the fight or stop demons or anything like that. Some of them are going to be bad. And this show doesn't really dive into that. Maybe it would have happened in the next season, perhaps, but this show doesn't address these consequences. It just says, now everybody's awake, and it kind of leaves it on an uplifting note. There is a Season 8 per se in the form of a comic book series which does deal with this a little bit, and it does show that some of them turn evil, which is great because, well, it's not great because they're evil, but at least it does address the fact that there are so many new, Slayers out there, so many new people with power. The final 2 seasons are really the culmination of this show, and it takes it in very different directions, which has caused fans to be split on them. Personally, I like the adaptation of depression and loss in the show, and like how it was handled with maturity and given proper weight. I also think that more of the episodes feel less grand, because Season 6 is all about fighting normal people instead of some big grand, demon that can destroy the world. And Season 7 went back to that idea, but it's also an abstraction of it with the first evil, and because of that, it isn't as interesting as it could be, though the dive into what it is to be a Slayer was interesting, so at least that's good. I just wish there were more happy conclusions to the characters, but I feel as if none of them get that. It's bittersweet and it ends in an uplifting note, but that's not enough for me. I want happy, goddammit! After 2 incredibly long episodes talking about this show, it is of my opinion to say that Buffy the Vampire Slayer is worth it. It is incredibly well written and such an amazing show. There is so much witty dialogue and fun scenes. The characters have so much depth to them and they have so much growth over 7 years. And whilst I may not agree with all the choices that they make, I can respect them and see where they were coming from. There is so much humor, there is so much fun in the show. The action is great for the most part, and I didn't even really talk about it. The fact that each thing in the show has some weight to it, and they don't just do stupid one-off little flimsy ideas for no reason. They wanted every episode to be good. Now, there are some standout episodes as well with Hush and The Body and Once More with Feeling, and they are just a whole nother level. Even if you don't enjoy the show, those episodes are still great on their own, and they have more weight if you do watch the show. I don't think that everything about it is fantastic. There are some forgettable episodes, and Season 6 and 7 are definitely polarizing to the general people because it is so much darker than the previous seasons, but I don't mind that because the stories were still compelling to me. And I really hate Joss Whedon for some of the stuff that he made these characters do, because I just wanted everyone to have a happy ending. Joss, if you ever watch this, screw you. You are really bad at making happy endings. Gosh. Damn you, Joss. But I still love you because you made a great show. Guys, tell me what you think about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I quite enjoyed it, as you can tell, and I think that all seasons have great merit and some bad stuff about them. Season 5 is probably the one I like the least out of all the seasons, even though I really do like Glory. I really hate Dawn, so... But tell me what you guys think, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Damn you, Joss, but I still love you because you made a great show. Yeah. Watch it. It's great.